Hey, it's Dave from the Camera Store. Today we're going to be talking with Todd Korol about photographing soccer from the sidelines. We recently had the opportunity to work with Todd Korol, who's a fantastic photographer. He's been working in the sports and action realm for a long time, photographing speed skating and the NHL and several Olympics. So he knows what he's doing from the sidelines and captures some great images. Now, we recently went down and tagged along with him at Spruce Meadows to photograph from the sidelines the Calgary FC. It's a great opportunity to get inside Todd's brain and see how he covers an event like this, both from the shooting perspective and the post-production side of things. All right, we're here down at Spruce Meadows, home of Cavalry FC, and we're going to shoot some amazing soccer tonight, which is fantastic. Now, the rain is holding off. Hopefully it stays holding off for a little while. We're prepared either way, which kind of brings us to a good point. Todd, you've been shooting professional sports for a long, long time. Olympics, you name it, you've done it all. With big glass, little glass, you name it. What are some of your tips if you're just getting into this kind of photography? What would you recommend to somebody just starting off?
Well, somebody who's starting off, the first thing I said, we did a little workshop here yesterday with Calgary FC, and one of the first things I said is don't turn your back towards the players or the play, because you're liable to get run over. I mean, I have seen working pro photographers get taken out on sidelines. You know, I kind of joke about that, but that is a big thing. You gotta, once you get down into any kind of game situation, you really have to pay attention to the play and what's going on so you don't get hit and you don't get hurt.
Well, I know you brought in a monopod years ago that was shattered because I think you got taken out by a player or a football or something like that. So yeah, you got to be you know, eyes wide open when you're shooting here, not just for looking for shots, but looking for your own health and safety.
For sure.
All right, Todd, so you have the 35 1.4. That's not the lens you're probably going to be shooting with for the game. I might be overcompensating. I brought along a 400 2.8 today, which hopefully will be able to get nice tight shots and help out with the lighting that we're dealing with. When you go to a soccer game or any field that you're looking for, you kind of have an equipment list in your mind that you're growing with as you go along, or is it just sort of like bring everything and hope for the best?
Yeah, always. I never, you know, if you go to the Olympics or some big event, you're bringing everything and the kitchen sink. I mean, I bring remotes, I bring little tripods, I bring, you know, wide angles, everything from a fisheye to a 600mm lens, and everything in between. But when you start doing specific sports, like you do an NHL hockey game or a football game, or if you're doing a soccer game, you can kind of pare down your gear so that you're not bringing everything. The new Sony 100 to 400, I love to use. I can shoot so much of that. Last year I shot speed skating with it, and I thought I'd need a faster lens, and I didn't. I mean, you know, obviously all these new cameras can shoot high ISOs, so it makes your life so much easier, and you're not carrying all this really heavy stuff. I've seen so many times photographers get weighed down with a backpack, and they're trying to take pictures, and your backpack weighs 30 pounds, and you start moving. Well, you can't stop. The backpack, the motion, the momentum keeps you going, right? So I try not to bring everything. I'll use a telephoto lens. A lot of times on a second body, I'll have a 24 to 70, and then I'll try to work with that.
All right, Todd, so one thing that we haven't really talked too much about so far is the weather sealing of these cameras. I mean, we've brought some very expensive gear, but we brought some rain covers as well. Do you worry too much about rain covers? Do you wear them? I mean, what's your take on that?
For sure. I mean, when the rain really starts coming down, then rain covers come out for sure. But when it's, you know, when it's just kind of drizzling like this, no, I mean, these cameras can hold up to, you know, wet weather. I see people, you know, really protecting their stuff, but, you know, this stuff is built for this kind of weather now. If the weather starts pouring, that's a whole different story.
Good to know, because I think the rain might open up a little bit more tonight.
We might get rained on here tonight a little bit. I took a shower last night. I don't think I was this wet in the shower when I was showering. So the Canadian anthem's going. This is when game time starts. I start to get into the game, really start to focus, figure out what's going on. I'm gonna go first into the zone where Calgary is gonna attack and go towards the net. So I want to get photographs of Calgary coming, hopefully scoring a goal. So I'll go to the end where they're going to go, and kind of when the national anthem starts for me at every event, this is kind of when game time happens and I get to work. For a night game like this, and even light, you're only going to have one setting. Right now I'm shooting at 8,000 ISO, 1,000th of a second at f2.8. And I just use auto white balance but for color, but I'm shooting in RAW anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can do whatever. But yeah, your light's not going to change. So once you got your camera set up, you can just concentrate on taking photos. In different sports, depending on the sport you're doing and the lighting conditions, with these new cameras now, a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm shooting auto ISO. I'll set my shutter speed, a high shutter speed of 1500, and then I will just shoot on shutter priority all the time and just let the auto ISO do its job. And when you try to outthink these cameras, that's when you lose. These cameras are so good now that you just, as long as the picture's in focus, everything else is going to be good on these images.
All right, Todd, we survived the torrential downpour out there. It's the worst game of the year as far as weather goes, but we got some really good shots out of it, I think. Now, we've come in at halftime here, and now you're ingesting your images right away. Can you walk us through your workflow?
I can, for sure. What I do is pretty basic and simple. I use a program called Photo Mechanic. What it does is it ingests your photos really quickly. It can provide a new unique name to each photograph, which I like to use so that I don't have double photographs. The great thing about Photo Mechanic is you can look through photos really, really quickly, unlike Lightroom or Capture One, which are also, they can catalog your images, but they have to ingest everything and they have to work with everything. Whereas Photo Mechanic, all it does is give you the ability to look at the images really quickly and make selections so that you can then open up the photo in Photoshop and get the picture ready and send out. It streamlines your process and makes everything so much faster. And especially on a night like today, I came, halftime, I have two 64 gigabyte cards that are full, right, which means that's going to be close to 2,000 images, which is way too much. Usually, I tend not to look at images very much when I'm shooting a game because the plays happen. You've already shot it. It can't happen again. You can't make it happen again.
Especially a game like soccer where there's no delays, right? It's just go, go, go. It's not like hockey where there's a 2-minute break for a TV commercial and you got some time to play around a little bit. Yeah. So that's interesting. So, and then what do you do from here? Do you have selects? Do you go through like a first pass and you delete, or do you just pick your top 5, 10, 15, 20, the ones that really stand out to you?
I pretty much never delete everything. What I do is I'll make my selects, I'll go through a run through and I'll tag images. I'll make a gallery of tagged images, and then from there I'll cut it down even more. And then depending who I'm working for and what my assignment is, I will make a gallery or a selection of anywhere from 10 to 30 or 40 images that I'll send off to a client.
All right, Todd, so the second half has just started, but we took a little bit of a break here. Now, I was watching you as you walked around the field with that 400mm lens. Now, how do you know where to stand? How do you know what angles to get? And as the game evolves, how do you make it work as far as the gear you have?
Well, because I wanted to feature Calgary here, I went to the end zone where Calgary would be attacking, hopefully scoring a goal. I also went to the corner because if somebody does score, then usually what they do is run away from the net, and I went by where all the fans are because they like to show off in front of the fans, put their arms up in the air. So ultimately that's kind of the one of the photos that I'm looking for, and that's why I'm positioned there. And also a lot of action happens up the sidelines and then cuts in towards the net, so that's a prime position. You got to kind of know the game a little bit and learn about the game and figure out where you want to go.
Now, you shot a lot of hockey and other sports as well with different sizes of pitches and fields. Does your lens choice really matter? Do you find it you go in there with like a 4-2.8 for a bigger pitch like this, or a 7200 might be a bit short?
Yeah, for this, 7200 is way too short. In the corner, I use that 400, which is great for, the net shot and people coming up. And then I use a 24-70. If some action happens right in front of me, I can get it. Now, today, it was tucked in, trying to keep dry because of the weather. But generally, those two lenses, I can do a lot. I can get a nice wide shot with this lens, and then that 400, I can really key in on the action. And I like using fixed focal length lenses. I find a lot of times if you have zoom lenses, sometimes we start zooming a little too much, and then you get caught when a picture's happening, you're actually zooming. So, you know, or even if I use a zoom lens, I like to set that zoom at a focal length and then use that focal length while I'm shooting.
Yeah, I mean, soccer is a very challenging game to work on because it's constant movement. When you're down low, there's so many players in front of other players. It's a challenging game to shoot, but I think we're doing okay. I think we've got a few keepers between the two of us.
Hopefully, you know, today was a very, very tough, and I talked to some of my friends here that are photographers, and they said, man, this season has been unbelievable. It's been perfect weather every single game, and of course we came out here. But this is, you know, a really great National Geographic photographer told me one time, bad weather makes for great photos, and it kind of adds to the atmosphere, and it adds to
well, just looking at some of the photos of guys like you know, playing, running, right? You see the rain streaming down, right? It's fantastic. It just adds that extra element to it.
Really,
right?
it makes for really interesting pictures too.
All right, Todd, we had a great time today, despite the inclement weather. The rain was craziness, but I call those character shoot days because it kind of really builds your character. Do you want to be out there? Do you want to get the shot? And I think it makes those shots you do get that much more worthy.
Yeah, for sure, no question.
So if you had to go back and we look at like, what are your top 3 points for people wanting to get into sports photography, especially shooting from the sidelines?
Yeah, I think, you know, learn the game, be passionate about the game or sport that you're interested in doing. I think that will help you out a lot, you know, learning how the sport works. I think that'll be a big thing. One of the other tips that I give students when I talk to students is give yourself an assignment. Come here and give yourself an assignment, either to photograph one player or one specific thing at a game, and that way you have more focus in what you're doing. Work on something every single game. Pick a thing that you want to work on, either, you know, a wide angle that you're going to photograph the atmosphere of the game, or if you're going to try to photograph just peak action, and pick one of those things and try to concentrate and work on developing that skill as a photographer.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, that's always a good thing that I tell students as well.
No, that's really important. I mean, learning the technical side of things is one aspect, and you get better and better the more you shoot. But then look at the game as a whole, right? And if you look at what shots am I trying to capture? Is it my particular kid trying to score a goal, right? It's always tough. You shoot everybody, everything, and just practice, practice, practice. So, Todd, thank you for joining us today on this cold, wet day.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing all the shots here. This is going to be a great time. I want to thank Cavalry FC for having us on the field today. It's been a great experience. And Todd, for joining us. Want to leave any comments, leave them down below, and follow us all on Instagram, and make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you again next time. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to check out more of our recent content, click up here. And if you're a Canadian and you want to support local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.